Hello everyone, how's it going? So I recently watched the Backrooms film and well, I thought it was just average at best. Look, I'm familiar with the Backrooms. I've watched the lore videos and stuff, but I'm not a hardcore fan. But I've seen hardcore fans really love this film because it keeps in line with what they expect from the director. His name is Kane Parsons. He goes by Kane Pixels on YouTube. I've seen his videos. They're really well done for YouTube standard, but when it translates to the big screen, I don't think it's going to work out the same way. Like, yeah, this movie is generating a lot of money. Of course it is. It's a cheaply made A24 film, and it's adherent to a very popular IP. There are dozens of games, thousands of YouTube videos on this, so it's going to make money from people who really like this IP. But for people who aren't familiar with the Backrooms, I really think they're not going to like this. Like, I saw this with my family and my brother's girlfriend, and they didn't like it. They thought it was very boring, very dull. There are a lot of empty spaces in the film, no pun intended, because this is a liminal space, but they just felt like it just dragged on certain elements and they stretched out the film. But ultimately, as someone who knows some of the lore of the Backrooms, like myself, I thought it was painfully average. And the way I would describe this film, if I were to tell someone about it, is that it feels like a YouTube movie stretched out and with a better budget. That's really what it feels like, just a very long YouTube film. Like, if you would have watched his YouTube series on the Backrooms and compare it to the film, it's almost exactly the same thing in terms of how it is shot, the atmosphere, the pace of it. Like, everything about it literally is a direct reflection of that, and whether you like it or not, that's strongly on your own personal preference. If you watched his films and videos and you said, oh, I would love to see a movie like this, then you're probably going to enjoy it. But if you watch and you say this is very boring, you're going to hate this. So what is the summary here? Well, the film opens up with a traditional movie like YouTube video in the Backrooms. Async Research Institute employee there, he's running from an entity, everyone else is dead, and he eventually gets caught by one and killed. So they set up the foundation of what's going to happen. So we get to the two main characters, Dr. Mary, who's a therapist, and her patient, Clark. Clark is going through a very messy divorce. His wife left him. He's paying for the house, her schooling. She's trying to be a lawyer, everything. And he has some deep issues. Like, you can, like, from right in the opening therapy scene, you can tell, like, there's, like, you root for the guy in a way, but as you start to peel layers out of him, you start to see that this guy is, he's not a good person. So he clearly struggles with, like, alcoholism. He drinks a lot. He he's kind of a whiner in a way. Like, not to get too ahead of myself, but from the first therapy session, you can tell, like, there's something not right about this guy in the sense that he has a lot of problems. But Dr. Mary, she's trying to play a role play situation where she pretends to be his wife and they're talking. He's all about finance and saying that she wants to have kids, she wants to have a big family, and he's paying for everything. He's paying for her to go to school, he's paying for the house, everything. You can see all the rage that's coming out of him, which is understandable. If anyone who's seen a family member or a friend go through that, it's understandable when you're going through something like that where you're paying for everything and you're basically kicked out of everything. But his store is struggling, as you can see there. He gets a giant rip-off sign that's spray painted on this wall, showing that maybe his prices are too high or whatever. It's a traditional 1990s furniture store. His store is struggling because he's paying for everything for his ex-wife while at the same time trying to keep the store afloat. But the biggest issue right now is the electricity. Like, it's off the rockers in terms of billing. The electricity just goes to the breaker box, and find this anomaly here. Like, there are just these breakers that are just plastered in, doesn't know what it's doing. But yeah, as the film goes on, you can see that Dr. Mary has her own issues. Like, her mother had schizophrenia. She was trapped in their apartment for so long until eventually she was put into a mental institution. So you can see that she tried to help people. She became a therapist in hopes of that, but she doesn't really help a lot of people. You can tell that she struggles with drug addiction and other stuff. Like, she's kind of out of it. Like, she's always trapped in the past while trying to live her life in the present, but you can see that it's still clawing at her. But yeah, as the film goes on, Clark just has a breakdown. He sees that the store's lights are flickering, and then he goes down to the breaker box. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but there's a lot of just dead air between that scene where they get into the backroom situation and everything that's happening with the characters. Like, for example, he goes to his ex-wife's house, the one that he's paying for, and he just sits there and stares at it. You can tell he's drinking at the store during off hours, but still drinking heavily, like raw, hard liquor. He he's also getting stuff from the television where it's indicating that the Backrooms are trying to lure him in. So that'll play into later, but he turns off all the lights, and then he sees that there's this type of like slit where it leads to nothing, but there's something on the other side, and he essentially no clips into the Backrooms. And they go back and forth as he's like pretending to go in and out, and it plays realistic. Like the person doesn't know what's going on. Clark is just like, what the hell? I'm like literally phasing in and out. But once he gets inside, he starts exploring, and this is where the slow pace starts to come in. Like, it's like the YouTube series he did. He's slowly exploring. It's very boring. Like, that's the thing. Like, I get that a lot of people may say, like, this is the whole point. There isn't supposed to be action from corner to corner. It's not a traditional monster film, but he's just slowly exploring stuff. You can see, like, stuff is very out of the ordinary. Chairs that are stacked up on one another, but still fused together. A stop sign that's in reverse. All the stuff that you would expect from the Backrooms. Basically, stuff described to a person, but if they were to never know what it is, this is how they would draw it. So he's just like going through fragmented memories of what other people think certain things are. Eventually he gets to a room where something horrifying is making a sound, and he runs out and leaves almost immediately. Now this is the biggest issue I have. Like, Clark is black, and I guarantee you if a black guy ever went into something like this, he would immediately sell the store and he would never go back there. Look, I'm a minority as well. If I went through something like that, I'd be like, nope, store is being sold. I am never coming back here ever again. But they try to play on that notion, I guess, because he's drawn to the Backrooms. Like, there's nothing of value here to him. Like, it would have made more sense if he was like, hey, I can make money off this, because he's struggling financially with the divorce and his store not doing so well. So it would have made sense if he was like, maybe I can make money out of this, like something out there that could link him to this. But the way they try to draw it in is later on in the movie, a fly flies into the Backrooms, almost like you're drawn to it. Like, you have to be there. Like my brother told me, he was like, that's what they were trying to play on. Like, you know there's nothing of value here. It's incredibly dangerous. It's unnerving, but you need to go and explore. You need to get into it. Like, even the insects can't ignore it. But yeah, it makes no sense of why he keeps going back, but he wants to go back. So then when he goes to his therapy session where he's like frazzled, he's like, sorry I'm late and all that, almost like it's court mandated. Like, he clearly doesn't like being there, and he clearly has animosity towards his wife. So I'm assuming that it's court mandated, and it plays on to later on when we find out in the movie. But he starts telling his therapist about this room, about how it's basically if someone told you what a dog looks like without ever seeing a dog, and they try to describe it, which is on point of what the Backrooms is supposed to represent. It's supposed to be an unholy anomaly of what things should be but are not. So he has a map. He's been going in and out of the place constantly. He hasn't even been drinking despite being an alcoholic, which is very crazy. So he's going through withdrawals. As you can see, he's sweating, he's frazzled, he's not sleeping. So she's also like a little concerned for him. At the same time, he like mentions this thing. He's like 51, I believe he calls it. But basically, she has the power to call the police and maybe even get him institutionalized, which is a lot of power for a therapist. I think only psychiatrists could do that. But she was like, yeah. And then I don't know why he would open up with that. It's almost like they have to establish that he may be a threat to her, but she also knows something that she's not telling us, that she knows about the situation between him and his wife, and by now you've probably already figured it out. But either way, he shows her a map. He says like all of this stuff, and he's like, I'm gonna bring back proof, and you're gonna be sorry you ever doubted me. I'm like, dude, you're not winning any cases for you, and why is it so hard for you to prove it to this person? You're her patient. Like, she's here just to make sure you're in a good mental state. But yeah, he goes back. He gets his assistant manager and her boyfriend to help, because they were filming a commercial earlier in the film with his store. Basically, he's like a pirate, and it's the tradition. If you grew up in the 1990s, you know what I'm talking about. It's basically one of those commercials like that where they have props and a caricature in order to sell more stuff. So he enlists them in order to come and help. He has this entire like command center in the basement, the bottom floor of his furniture store, where he was mapping out the room and everything. And by the way, he wants to be an architect, but he makes the excuse that he needs to pay bills and run in the furniture store, even though he's the one who owns the furniture store. But yeah, he actually is pretty good at it, like mapping and all of that stuff. So I guess he took the architect thing seriously until he couldn't, because he had to support his wife and everything. But yeah, He has this entire command center. They decide to go in with a camera, and since it's the 1990s, it's a big, heavy camera. I don't know why you couldn't take a disposable camera, like ones that you take pictures with. Yeah, back in the day, we didn't have phones. We had like little disposable cameras. I don't know why you couldn't do that, but as much as they could have done, they could have just like recorded him going in and out of the room, and that would have been proof enough, but they kept going in deeper. Again, it's the lore that the Backrooms shoves you inside. You have to explore it. So they go inside. The boyfriend is more... he's more interested to explore, whereas the girlfriend's like, no, this is creepy. She's the only one with survival instincts. She's like, no, this is creepy, this is unnatural, we shouldn't be here. But they keep going, and even with the incentive of him paying them, I don't think there's enough money in the world for him to pay them. Not to mention, again, he's financially struggling at this point. I don't think he's made any sales in the time he's been exploring this back room. But yeah, they go deeper and deeper, and he essentially tells the boyfriend he wants him to go down this deep sloping hole to explore down here because he's not been able to go down there because of the hole. And I'm like, why in the hell would you ever be convinced to go down there? No amount of curiosity would be enticing enough to go down there, but he decides, you know what, I'm gonna take this heavy ass camera, go down this hole, and then they tie a rope to his like belt, the belt loop on his pants. So he heads down, and lo and behold, something dangerous is down there. Like, the director did a great job of highlighting that, of how like unsettling this place looks. Like, there's literally a head sticking out of the laundry room, like it's a broken down laundry room. It stinks, dark lighting, everything, and it's only when he sees something inside that he gets concerned and starts to run away. But because he's attached to this rope, which, this is the first stupid thing that I can't even fathom of why he didn't do it, is that all he had to do was take off his pants. Like, the entity starts grabbing the rope and trying to pull him down. I'm like, dude, just take off your pants. Your girlfriend's already seen you naked. This guy has seen you with your boxers on, because when he came to their apartment, he was literally in his underwear. I was like, just take off your pants. But he's like, I guess he was just so frazzled and scared that he wasn't thinking straight, but I would have been like, dude, just take off your cargo shorts. He gets dragged down along with all of them because they tied it to a bedpost. And of course, logic dictates that as he's pulling the rope, he's going to pull the entire thing. So they pull the bed, smashes into them, they all get shoved down. And this is where things really hit the fan, where he gets dragged into this like coffin, like I don't know what you call it, the things that are in a mortuary where you pull out, and he gets dragged in, blood everywhere, and he's killed. The girlfriend is scared. She tries to go look for him, so she just runs off along with sorry, I had to glance at the door, but yeah, he gets dragged in, and she runs off to go look for him while Clark is yelling, and he takes the camera, and they start running. This guy runs really fast for someone who's holding a 90s camera. He reminds me of that meme of that Olympic athlete who was running, and the cameraman is right side by side with him, but he takes off running, and they get separated. And this is actually the best scene of the entire movie. They show of how complex the back rooms are. He starts going through different levels with a pool area now, and he's trying to run away because now something is chasing him. So he gets to this room where she's on another side, where she sees a mirror of him on the other side, but he's just seen a tile wall. And the entity comes in, picks up the camera, and starts staring at him, and that's where things cut off. And we go back to Dr. Mary. Dr. Mary is now getting a phone call from Clark saying that he's happy where he is, please don't look for him. And she just kind of goes to find him. She goes to the furniture store to see if he's okay, because it plays on the idea that she wants to help people. Even though she could just dismiss this and call the police, she voluntarily goes to the place, and she can see there's mail everywhere. The store hasn't been open for a while. It's very unnerving when she gets downstairs, sees like the command center of everything that's there. So she sees the line of the back rooms, and the fly goes inside instinctively, again playing on the idea that something is drawing you in, and she heads inside. She starts exploring, and we have a repeat of the same scene with Clark when he first enters the room, and she's just exploring slowly, but they have to quicken the pace. So eventually she gets to a dead end, and Clark is there, and he's very just unnerving. Like, he's just like not acting right. He's very confused, but also kind of scary. He's acting like one of those, I guess, well, I can't say the word, you know, those Twitch people who like watching e-girls. Let's just put it like that. I can't use the actual word because I'm pretty sure YouTube has a rule against that. But yeah, he's like trying to gain her trust. He's saying like, I'm happy here, this is an incredible place and everything. And then they hear the entity, and then he gets slowly behind her and then chokes her out, saying that this is for her best interest. Now, this is what I didn't really like about the film. Like, they could have played it off that Clark was trying to help her, that he's been hiding from the entity this entire time, and if she was there, probably would have ran off and gotten lost. Maybe he's lost as well. He doesn't know where he is because the Backrooms is supposed to shift and change, so maybe he's lost as well. Even though he mapped it out, it could just be like, hey, he's lost and he knows this thing would find him, but no, he's gone completely bonkers. He's been in here for many weeks, and yeah, he takes her to this room, which are memories of his. Basically, his kitchen, his ex-wife, some guy, and some other guy. So she is attached to the chair, and she's trying to just get on his side. You know, the basic play to his better interest, so he'll let her go. He has a big knife with him, so she's scared for her life. He then opens the fridge, and you can see the head of his assistant manager there. It's never made clear whether he killed her or not. I think that the entity killed her, but it's a little confusing. Like, I'm not really sure, but considering, let's just say, he has a very violent nature to himself, so he starts talking to her, saying that he's much more happier here, he feels at peace here, and there's the memory of his ex-wife right there. So he starts to attach that this Backrooms place basically takes the memories of anyone who goes inside and makes replicas of it. Like he stated to her, it's like describing a dog to someone who doesn't know what a dog is and having them draw it. So they're like people with multiple eyes, they're disfigured, they operate on the most baseline of levels, but they're basically just walking mannequins at this point. They're not really dangerous, even though he met one while he was running through the pool room, but they're mostly just like husk. And the worst part about it is apparently they're edible because he's been eating them. That's how he's been surviving this entire time. I think that's what made him just go completely insane. But yeah, I felt like this scene could have been better if he was like some sort of mimic creature, or if he was the entity. Like, she starts to realize that he's not who he says he is. Like, he looks like Carl, he talks like Carl, but he's not Carl. You could have made it like she's starting to talk to him, and then she started to realize like he would not act like this. This is not who he says he is, and start to pick up on that, and eventually he would mutate into an entity. At least that's how I would have played it, but it turns out he is who he is because he wants to roleplay again to try and gain the closure of the idea that he was always right about his ex-wife, that he is the one being victimized. And he does this very horrible thing where he cuts off the hair of the memory of his wife and puts it onto the doctor to roleplay that he's talking to her, just like their sessions, but to a much more direct, profound degree. And she just completely loses it. She says, no, you're the one who's at fault. You're the problem. You blame everyone else for your problems. The reason you didn't become an architect because you had to take a job as a furniture store salesman. The reason your wife left you because of your drinking and working late at night. It is all your fault, and it heavily hints that he beat his wife. That's why she separated from him. That's why probably he has to go to these therapy sessions. Maybe it's court mandated. And on top of it, it also explains why he's the way, like these anger issues you see throughout the film. Like he deeply has these anger issues. He struggles with alcoholism, and it all fits back. It's why he ran to the therapy session despite the fact that he was enamored with the back room, because he had to. Like, it's never said in the film, but it really heavily hints at that she sees him for what he is, and she just wants him to see it. Like, he's been in denial this entire time, and we'll get the complete conclusion of that later on when I discuss it. But you even get insight into her. She says, I can't help you, I can't help anyone, and it basically fills into herself. Like, she's been trying to help other people the way that she couldn't help her mom, and she can't help anyone. She can't even help this guy. So, despite all the sessions they've been through, despite everything, she's a failure as a caregiver, as a therapist, as all of this. I don't know if it's a play on the fact maybe she went to become a psychiatrist. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much about it, but it's also an insight into herself. She feels like a failure herself. That's why she's, like, taking narcotics and stuff like that, because... And she also has, like, these cassette tapes that she sells for $25, which he also plays in his car. So, yeah, she just flat out tells him, and he accepts it, actually. Like, he's hurt and he understands why she said it, but he's like, yeah, you're right, but I'm happier here. And she's like, you can stay here, no one's stopping you, you have a free will to do so. And he accepts that. He's like, yeah, I'm going to stay here. I'm happier here. This is my life now. And when he's about to let her go, that's when the entity stops to come. And it turns out it's him in the Captain Pirate costume that he uses for his store, replicating the memories of him playing that part during his commercial. His assistant manager and her boyfriend filmed the commercial, so it's a memory of him. And she's complete. The thing that confirms that he used to hit his wife is the fact that his memory of his wife starts to run away, and she runs into a corner almost like to try and protect herself. So he's aware of what he's been doing to his wife. He just doesn't want to accept that this is who he is, because remember, this wife, this version of his wife is his memory. So he's aware of what he's been doing to her. And it just confirms everything. This guy was a wife beater. He hurt his wife, and that's why she left him, and he refused to accept it. But the entity comes in. He starts to talk to it like he's been communicating with this entire time. There was a scene where the corporation has cameras everywhere within the back rooms of parts they explore. I forgot to mention it. It's like, it's so forgettable, like the scene. It's like you see this guy looking through the camera, and he's just like fascinated what's going on. But yeah, he's been communicating with this thing, and apparently they had a good relationship. I don't know, but she's horrified, rightfully so, about it. By the way, Clark was going to let her go. He was about to cut through both of the straps, but then the thing picks him up, and he's like so happy and joyful, and it just starts to kill him. He bites down on his collarbone, and I'm just like, I'm not really sure about why he does that. Like, if it's just been like them communicating and they just walking together, is it because he accepted that he's a terrible person? The therapist actually got through to him, and now he's like, his narcissism is playing onto the memory of this creature. I don't know. Like, it's a little weird of how they play this scene out, but yeah, he kills him. Mary starts to run out, and we have a Poppy playtime chase scene where she's just running through rooms to the back room, trying to get away from him. They eventually reach the furniture store, and she just kind of defeats it using the piece of cinder block, which is a memory of hers from her time at her home when she had her family, a mom, her dad, her sister, I believe. But basically, she's been clinging on to this rock of a handprint they had on their driveway, but she uses that to knock the creature out and escape the back rooms. At that point, Async finds her, they kidnap her, they put her into a holding room, they start to discuss what she saw, and then you see the interpretation of the back rooms taking her memories, slowly warping them until finally we see a replica of Mary at the bottom of the back rooms, and that's how the film ends. So yeah, that's the back rooms. Like I said, this is a very mediocre film from someone who just knows the bare minimum of the back rooms. Someone who has no familiarity with this, I feel like, are the ones who are not going to like this at all. They're probably going to feel like it's very slow, the build up. A lot of the characters act very weirdly in the way, like the way the backrooms operate, and the idea of like them just being replica memories of everyone that comes into the area. It's kind of like they use the story path of then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, instead of this happened as a result of this. Like, it just kept going forward. Like, they needed a reason of why this person kept going back into the back rooms, because they realized someone who actually has seen horror movies in general, or like just has common sense, would immediately say, nope, I'm not coming back here. I heard something in there. I'm probably going to barricade this room and sell the store and be done with it. The other thing is with the therapist going in there, another thing they had to drag in the idea that, hey, this thing is luring you in with no prospects of any type of gain by going in there. The idea that Carl went mad in here, but then he still listens to reason despite him going completely crazy. I feel like if he was truly mad, he wouldn't have cared about what she said. But I think the biggest twist that could have happened if they did it the way I did, with like Carl was like a mimic or some sort of imposter creature. I'm sure someone more familiar with Backrooms probably has a character like that, but I know that certain creatures are isolated to certain floors. But something like that, they could have made it that Mary's mother comes out, like similar, like now that she's been in the back rooms for a somewhat amount of times, it takes her memories, and then she sees her mother, and then the mother and the entity fight, and then it kills the entity, but then it goes after her as it slowly mutates into what she believes to see her mother. Like how the creature is a mutated version of his pirate costume. This could have been a mutated version of how she saw her mother, more grotesque. There are a lot of things that they could have done so much better. Like, they have a foundation of a good story here, but I feel like they just kept it in the way of how he creates YouTube videos. Like, it's like I said at the beginning of this, it feels like a long YouTube video made for the big screen, and it doesn't really feel very conclusive. Like, they're gonna make a sequel of this no matter what. It's made a lot of money. I already saw, I think it made like 80 million, which is pretty substantial. I believe that budget is 10 million. Don't quote me on that, but I do know that there's going to be a sequel for this. It's like with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, where it was basically garbage. Like, I think this is better than the Five Nights at Freddy movies, but basically, as long as it makes a lot of money, cheaply made, it's way better. I think Obsession is way better, though. Like, that film was actually a lot more engaging in terms of horror. So if you're looking for a genuinely good horror movie, I would go watch that instead. If you're a fan of the Backrooms, it's likely that you will enjoy this, but if you're anyone other than a hardcore fan, I really think that you're just not going to enjoy this film. I also think that the idea that the Backrooms is just a replica of everyone's memories feeding in, I feel like it answers too many questions for what this is. So does that mean that everything that transpires here are people who've gone into it? How many doorways are there? How does this, like, you see, it starts to become a can of worms. Sometimes saying less and explaining less is better for the mystery of this place rather than trying to explain everything. But that's what I thought of it. If I were to give it a score, I would give it like the mid-ish 5 out of 10. I can. It's like a serviceable horror film, but it's one of those films that you watch and you forget, like something you would just play in the background while you eat dinner, or something you're just looking to fill time with. It doesn't really feel like it goes anything beyond that. But that's it from me. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Bye.